Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very, very special guest on the show. His name is Barry Ramey. He is a January 6th, J6 political prisoner. He has an unbelievable story. You will not believe his story. And so I'm going to ask you to please go ahead and share this out. Let's get a bunch of people on here. Americans need to know what this guy, along with a lot of other amazing people, have been going through. So stay with us. Share this out. Share it to everyone. Stay with us, and we will be right back. Okay, we're back. Let me go ahead and bring Barry on. Barry, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ken, good to be with you.
I'm glad you're here finally, man. We had some communistic behavior going on the last time I tried to get you on the show, and you're here now. So, Barry, you are one of the folks that got mixed up in the whole January 6th deal in 2000 and was it 20 or 21?
2001, yeah.
21. Okay. And I've heard bits and pieces of your story. I've never heard the entire thing, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. Certainly paid a huge price for being there, and I'm looking forward to you sharing with the audience exactly what happened and what's been going on, and just tell everybody where you're from, born and raised. Where's your origination, if you would.
Uh, well, I was born in Rockford, Illinois, but I grew up in South Florida most of my life. I've been here for a pretty long time.
Okay, so tell everybody. You were involved in the January 6th stuff. How did that come about? What happened? How did you even end up there?
Well, I mean, I ended up there by my own choice, but to kind of give a story of why I felt compelled to go there was watching what took place in our country during the Summer of Love in 2020. The American flag burning, the buildings burning, the businesses being looted, and America pretty much on standby, just watching it happen. And between that and the censorship on social media for Trump supporters, the censorship of the story being put out of the Hunter Biden laptop, all of that kind of came together for me is that something was really wrong in our country. And I started to pay attention to the election and the things that Trump was saying. And it to me, it all checked out as being true. There was so many irregularities in the election with it, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and it was just more straws to the camel back where I felt compelled to at least show my face on January 6th.
So you were living in Florida at the time,
I was, yes.
and so you decided to fly up there. I don't know if you flew up or
No, we uh
drove.
we we
Or,
rented a car and
okay.
we drove up. We drove up.
So you were there to support President Trump. Um, just be one of, I don't even know, there were a lot of people there that day. I mean, a lot. Like I
Yes.
don't I don't how many were there? Over 100,000, wasn't it?
I heard that amount of people that were in D.C. that day for the rally to see Trump was closer to 1 million. Now that's not the people
Wow.
that went to the Capitol, but the people that were in D.C. that traveled there was upwards of 1 million people, is what
Oh
I've
my
heard.
wow. So so you were what's the area called? I've heard it where he was actually giving his speech.
The ellipses.
Okay, the okay. So you were there in that area when Trump talked?
No, actually,
Oh,
I didn't. I didn't go to the rally directly, or at all for that matter. I went up. I felt compelled to go there because we watched during 2016 all of the Trump rallies and all of the rallies that would be in between that time, where you had members of the far left come out and they would love to assault Trump supporters to and from their car, going from their vehicles to the rally, from the rally, and I felt compelled to go up there because if they were going to come out and attack Trump supporters, I was going to get in between that situation and the Trump supporter, my
got it.
fellow Trump supporter.
Yeah, there was a lot of that insanity, man. It was crazy. So you were there to um, stop the violence, try to prevent the attacks, I guess.
That is why I went. That is the only reason I went.
And so where were you then? If you so you weren't at the ellipses or whatever it's called. Where you were over near the Capitol then? Is that or
I was close by. I think the area is called the Mall. I hadn't been to DC since I was a little kid, so it was kind of all unfamiliar to me. It
okay?
was at that point where I saw a group. I got dropped off by my fiance. My fiance did not. She went with me, but she stayed in Arlington. She dropped me off in DC. Shortly after exiting the vehicle, I saw a group of guys, the Proud Boys, who were actively seeking Antifa out, and I figured that was my people, So I walked up to them and joined in what in their mission.
Okay. So when you but so you weren't like a were you a I'm speaking from ignorance because I've heard of it obviously. The Proud Boys was or is, I don't know, they're a group of people, men, that were what was their mission in life?
Well, I mean, it was the whole fraternity started off as a joke, more or less, but it quickly became a frat for men to be amongst men and to be better men, with an overall love for their country, America.
Yeah, yeah,
And while we saw all these things happening in 2020 and before, the only group of people stepping up to quote unquote punch back against the far radical left was this group of guys. And I had been familiar with a few of them, but I wasn't officially part of the fraternity until shortly after January 6th. I was with them, and January 6th had nothing to do with it, but good luck telling a DC prosecutor that.
yeah.
So, the rest is another story in and of itself. But these are the
Right.
guys that love America, that stand up for America and American values.
So explain what happened. So you're there. I don't even know what time it was. I had some friends that were there at the ellipses. One of my friends was she like was actually live streaming, just walking very peacefully down a major one of the major roads there, I guess. Um, and I just remember that it was mostly peaceful from what I saw. Um, but so talk about what as much as you can. I don't know if there's things you can't talk about, but what happened? What where did things go? So you're standing, you're in the mall area, whatever. Um, what happened? Where did things go? And by the way, anybody watching on X, if you would share this out and tag President Trump in your share, tag Tucker Carlson. Love to get some attention on what Barry's talking about. Like I love that. But anyway, go ahead and talk about how just kind of, because I know things escalated at some point. Talk about what transpired.
So I got linked up with the Proud Boys. There was some outside infiltrators that was trying to infiltrate the group and pretend to be one of them. At the time, like I said, I was not officially a member of the Proud Boys. So I saw an interaction between a guy who would become a good friend of mine, a very good person, Ethan Nordine, and somebody that was posing as a member of the Proud Boys. Well, Ethan Nordine walked up to them and said, "Hey, I know you're not one of us. It's probably in your best interest to stay away from us." And I saw that interaction, so I immediately walked up to Ethan Nordine. The individual was asked to show his ID, and he wouldn't do that. So I felt that that was an opportunity for me to show, to at least show that I'm authentic with the reason I'm here. And I produced my identification. I took my neck gaiter off because it was cold, and I took it off and said, "Hey, this is my face. This is my ID. I'm here because I want to supply uh, security to anybody that may need it." And so they asked where I was from. I said Florida, and that was about the extent of that interaction. We would walk around the outside of the Capitol and different places, and they were actively looking for left wing radicals. And other than small pockets of them, Antifa, whatever you want to call them, that weren't actually doing anything, I realized real quick that these guys are not bullies. They're not just going to go beat somebody up because they don't identify with them politically or ideologically. So there was a point before the initial breach, and by initial breach, I mean the pushing over of bike racks, where the Proud Boys congregated, and most of them, I'd say about 300 total that I was with, most of them, before Trump was even done speaking, decided that they were bored and they were going to go back to their Airbnbs and eat leftover pizza from the night before. So
Wow.
yeah, so most of them left, and from what I saw, it was a last minute decision to kind of walk over to the Capitol. There was no organization, there was no plan to do this. It was kind of like all of a sudden a small fraction of guys went that direction, and most of them were like, you know what, I don't know why we're going to go over there. I don't think we should go over there, and they didn't. The initial breach happened, which I believe there was like a small handful of Proud Boys that went over there,
Mm.
and the rest of the group stayed back. And the initial breach happened, and about 15 to 20 minutes later, the couple guys that I was standing guard with said, "You know what? Nah, let's go over there." I almost called for an Uber to go back to the hotel room because it was overall uneventful at this time. So we walked over there, and when we got there, there was the energy was kind of mild. There was men and women talking to Capitol Police, trying to form dialogue with them, and the overall gist of what they were saying was is that we're not here to fight you. You are not our enemy. We support you. We mean you no harm. And there was chants of USA, and there was chants of Trump won, and that was it.
Yeah.
And the crowd started singing the national anthem, and I joined in, and everyone singing the national anthem. It was a beautiful sight, and it was at that moment, not a single violent thing had happened from the crowd. And during the national anthem, two silhouettes appeared from the top of the steps of the Capitol, and they began to indiscriminately fire rubber munition rounds into the crowd. And at the same time, almost simultaneously, flashbangs filled with tear gas and concussion grenades were being deployed into the crowd. In fact, my attorney almost counted, I believe it was 13 to 15 that went off right at my head. And
You mean
and
the tear gas
yeah,
thing?
they were in a concussion grenade form. They would almost like pull a pin, throw them, and they would burst, and tear gas would come out. There was also tear gas being deployed from different apparatuses and spray guns, and they had bear mace, but overwhelmingly it was
Jesus.
being deployed through concussion grenades. Well, I watched at this point that a man by I would come to know his name later. His name is Joshua Black. I believe he's from Alabama. Joshua was shot through the face with a rubber munition round, and the video's out there. You can see it. It went through his face. This is not hyperbolic. There was a gaping hole and massive amounts of blood coming from his face. And for a brief
Wow.
second, I thought that they could possibly be firing live rounds. I mean, the injury was so significant, and the amount of blood was so significant that I thought, okay, this could be live rounds. Well, I quickly realized that it was rubber munitions. You could see the rubber bullet, the yellow rubber bullet sticking out of his face at one point. And
Good God.
you couldn't do anything. I couldn't
So,
go behind.
hold on. Let me back you up just a second here. I have a question. So
Sure.
the so you said that everybody was singing the national anthem. It was beautiful. And then two silhouettes, Capitol Police, I am assuming, came out without any provocation at all. They just started firing on the crowd.
Yes. Yes. And again, these
Nobody
video.
provoked them. Nobody threatened them. Nobody did
No.
anything. They just came out and started fight. And this is where everybody was just kind of assembled around the stairs and all that, right?
Yes. This is at the bottom of the
And they just
stairs.
started randomly firing rubber bullets into the crowd.
Yes. Hordes of
Holy
them.
shit.
Joshua Black was not the only one to be hit in the face. He was just the first one to really significantly be injured by the indiscriminate firing. And again,
Wow.
the tear gas is going off, the flashbangs are going off. Now, a logical person, and I can understand this, would say, well, why didn't you leave? Well, it happened so fast. And if you looked behind you, there was people shoulder to shoulder all the way back to the Washington Monument. There was nowhere to go.
Oh
There
my
was
God.
there was no turning around and going back. It was like, imagine a very crowded rock concert right at the front of the stage,
Right.
and but this rock concert goes back several miles, and so there was no turning around and going back. And
Wow.
there was an elderly woman that saw the significant injury of Joshua Black, and she attempted to get away from the front line. And as she was walking, a Capitol Police officer came out and just gave her a little shove. She tripped over herself, and she hit the ground. And at this point, I became I became angry. I became very upset at what I was seeing and the reaction from Capitol Police that didn't justify what was happening at that time, the response. And so a group of guys started getting in the face of the officers standing in front of the West Side Senate staircase, and arguments started going back. The officers were getting aggressive. People were then getting aggressive because of what they just witnessed. And eventually, I guess things popped off. And that's where I would assault a police officer. And again, I'm very open about that. I'm not proud about it. I wish I could take it back. But I want to say very clearly to your audience that yes, I did assault a police officer, though I was charged with two, and the second one never occurred. I am guilty of the first one, and I say that because it wouldn't be fair to the hordes and the majority of people that were there peacefully, that didn't do anything, that are caught up in indictments and felonies and sitting in prison. It's not fair to them because I did get violent. But it there was nowhere to go. The attacks were constant. The tear gas is still being deployed at our heads, and the response from Capitol Police was just so over the top that my emotions got the best of me, and the rest is history. So it
I
wasn't
you
just
know,
this unprovoked attack that they try to say.
I think that that day, even though Trump said go protest with your voice peacefully, or however he said it, something to that nature.
Peacefully and patriotically.
Yeah. Um, there was a lot of people that knew that the election had been stolen. There were a lot of people that were pissed off that their vote had been literally taken away from them. So there were a lot of emotions. I can understand. And then you watch an elderly woman get basically shoved to the ground by what still baffles me is that you just had two Capitol police officers walk out and start randomly shooting, and they were unprovoked into a crowd of who know hundreds of thousands. But like it's unbelievable to me that's not the narrative. That's not in the news. It's not in the news that these guys just started shooting rubber bullets at people. I've never, thank God, I don't want to ever be, but I've never been shot with a rubber bullet. Sounds like it could be painful. Um, and then the tear gas hand grenade things, basically. Um, like that's insane to me, man. I can't imagine that one wouldn't get incredibly emotional and violent at that point. I mean, I can't. I think I probably would. I don't know. I don't know. I've never been in that situation. But so you went through all of this. What happened after that? Did you go inside the Capitol building?
I did not. No,
Oh, you didn't. Okay.
no.
Wow.
I
Um,
went. I ended up going to the top of the steps a little later and taking a look around and people's emotions were running high. I watched
yeah,
a lot of different assaults from Capitol Police, and I figured it's probably safer for me downstairs. I didn't have any will to go in.
yeah.
So I didn't expect any of this. I thought that I would mainly be in between the parking lot and the rally and making sure people got to their vehicles safe. I never expected to be at the Capitol building that day.
I've seen videos. I don't know if you saw this when you were there, but I've seen videos of the Capitol Police just holding the door open for people to come in, and then inside, you've seen the videos, the police officers just kind of guiding people through the Capitol building, and then later those same people got charged with whatever it was, breaking and entering or whatever they charged them with, which is just mind-boggling to me that any of this shit has happened, quite frankly. Um, including what should you have assaulted a police officer? I don't know. Should he have assaulted an elderly woman? I don't know. I mean, if I were the judge and jury, I'd be like, what the hell's going on here? But that's not what happened with you. So talk about what happened. You were there, you went to the top of the steps. At some point the crowd broke up and kind of dissipated. What happened when you were at the top of the steps? When you say you assaulted an officer, what's that mean?
Well, there was pepper spray flying at us, and I squirted a shot of pepper spray back.
Did you have a
So
canister of it with you already, or that you found it laying on the ground or something?
I had a little keychain with
Oh,
me, a little
oh,
keychain pepper spray. If you
okay.
watched any of the 2020 riots and stuff, Antifa is it loves to pepper spray people or get in your face and over. If I ever found myself outnumbered, it was just for my own safety. It
Yeah,
definitely was not brought to the Capitol for what I ended up using it for. But
right.
one, just to put something real quick in context,
Yeah.
the officer that I found myself in this engagement in is not the officer that pushed the elderly woman. I just,
Oh.
I want to be very clear about that because
Oh,
I don't want
okay.
to misrepresent myself
Got
or
it.
the situation in any way. Anything I say can be backed up, with
Got
video, and I don't want to put that out there. But just to be clear
got
on
it.
that.
Okay. So you're you 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 know you go through all of this. How long did all this last? It wasn't very long, was it?
Which part? The whole capital
Yeah, I guess. I
issue.
mean, yeah.
Well, I ended up around. I would imagine. I don't remember the exact time, but in the middle of it, an announcement came over everyone's phone that the mayor of DC, Muriel Bowser, had issued if I believe I'm correct, a 6:30 curfew.
Okay.
So around 5:30, approximately, I was getting ready. I left the property and called an Uber to respect the curfew. So I that's that I left around 5:30, 5:45, and headed back to Arlington where our hotel room was at. I think I lost you there with the sound.
Can you hear me
There
now?
there we go. We're good.
Okay. So let me make an adjustment here. So I imagine that getting an Uber was that easy? I c-
Well, the first one got canceled for some reason, but I think it took about 45 minutes. But after the second, this I ordered the second one. I got it, and
okay. Yeah.
it wasn't as hard as you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, with that many people down there, that would take
Right.
a lot of Uber drivers. So, okay, so you leave, everything had happened. There was that incident of yeah. So I can understand the emotions. Um, and then you what, go home?
Went back to the hotel room, and I put on the news, and I started to see the immediate narrative being spun around the events that occurred that day.
Yeah,
White supremacists attack the Capitol, insurrectionists try to overthrow the government, armed militias attack the Capitol, and I couldn't believe my ears. Like, are they really saying this? I was just there. That's not what happened by
right.
any stretch. And so at this point, of course, naturally, I became nervous. I'm like, well, wait a minute, am I going to get tied up into that narrative? And of course the answer would be yes, but I don't really know that yet. So we drove home to South Florida, and I about approximately a month later, I was watching the impeachment of Donald Trump on the House floor, and I believe it was C-SPAN, and a congresswoman was going through her narrative of the events that day, and of course, it was more of the same hyperbole that
Yeah.
Trump supporters, armed militias, white supremacists attacked the Capitol, Nazi this and Nazi that. Well, as
Yeah.
she was playing the videos, she actually played a video with me on it, and so I pretty much
Oh,
concluded that yeah, I'm going to prison.
hold it. You
So
saw yourself on
yeah,
video? Oh
yeah.
shit.
So
You're
I
like,
immediately I got my first pack of cigarettes in over 15 years, and I retained an attorney immediately. And I would wait for over a year for the FBI to finally come knock at my door.
and they knocked on your door.
They did. I was at work. My fiance was home at the time, and they knocked on the door, and they had a picture of me. She refused to answer any questions or speak to them. So
Wow.
they left a business card with her. She took that business card to my attorney, then came to my job to let me know, hey, the FBI, as we knew was going to happen, has finally showed up.
Wow. Holy shit. So talk about that moment when you found out. How like freaked out were you?
At that point, it was almost like a sense of relief to at least let's get this part over and see where it's going to go,
Yeah.
because the whole year leading up to that moment was constant
You're like
suspense.
you're like
Yeah,
constantly
yeah,
looking over your shoulder. Where are
yeah.
they?
Is that blue jay in the tree have a microphone on it? I mean,
Right.
so
Right.
it would get worse, but at that moment I finally, okay, my lawyer can deal with this, and we'll see where this is going to go. I did not expect it to go where it ended up going. So
talk about where it ended up going. Yeah, because this actually might be the craziest freaking part of your story is what happened after you got. Go ahead, just tell everybody
So
what happened.
my fiance, as I said, brought the card of the FBI agent to my attorney, and my attorney reached out to the FBI agent. The FBI agent, the case agent, said that he was approximately a few weeks to a few months from needing to sit down to talk to me. So my attorney informed him that I do have representation. If I needed to turn myself in, my attorney would do that with me, and that was it. About 2 weeks later, I'm at my job. I was a aircraft mechanic at the time, and I'm working on an airplane. And the parts manager for the company came up and said, "Hey, Barry, you have a call on line one. It's a close family friend of yours," which is odd because I don't get calls at work. People
Right,
call me on my cell phone. And
right.
so I went to line one on the company phone, and nobody was there. They had hung up. So at this point, I think, okay, I'm being doxxed as somebody
Yeah.
that's a proud boy that goes to different flag waving events and Trump
Oh, so at
rallies.
this point, you're all in on the Proud Boys.
Yes,
Okay.
I had joined officially probably a month after January 6th. And again, this is something that I already wanted to do. January 6th had
Yeah.
nothing to do with it,
Right.
but
Right.
that decision was my own, and I made it unapologetically.
Yeah.
Again, I just feel that this is a group of men that love this country, that
Yeah.
believe in strong American Western values, and as
How
do I.
dare you love this country?
Yeah, yeah, you'll be labeled a. It's funny because even our black members are white supremacists too, so that's
Right. Right.
pretty
I know.
indicative
I
of the
know.
left
I'm
left
friends with some
philosophy.
black white supremacists, so I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
So okay. So go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, no problem. So I go to line one. I think, okay, I'm officially being doxxed as somebody that does these flag waving events and provides security
Yeah.
for MAGA supporters and conservatives and their First Amendment right. You always expect Antifa is going to dox you at some point. So I we have accounts for this online service called Truth Finder, and you can do a reverse lookup of the number. So I put the number in Truth Finder, and it came back to this person that said they were a close family friend of mine. So I found their address and I found a vehicle VIN number of theirs, and I called that number up from an app that disguises your identity. And I said, "Hey, look, you're trying to find me. I know who you are." And I sent them their address and this vehicle VIN number. Well, that was the FBI agent investigating my case, who said they were a close family friend of mine. And now,
Oh,
yeah. So now
that doesn't seem ethical or legal.
it's not either of those things. The once
What
the
the
the F,
freaking
Yeah, once the FBI agent reached out to my attorney and knew that I had representation, they weren't supposed to contact me at all. On top of this, they're by law they have to identify themselves as a law enforcement officer. So I think that I'm calling back somebody posing as a close family friend of mine because that's what this agent did. And
wow.
so my attorney calls me and says, "You need to come into my office." So, okay, I'm preparing. This is when all this is going to happen. I go into my attorney's office, and the attorney goes, "Did you call the FBI agent and threaten them?" And I go, "Oh shit." So I explained to my attorney what had happened, and I never saw that business card. My fiance brought it to my attorney. I didn't know the name on it, but that's the office. That's what the FBI agent used. He used his real name, but he said he was a close family friend of mine.
Yeah.
So, approximately 2 weeks after that, the FBI, as I'm going out to my vehicle. It's about 5:36 in the morning. I'm going to work, and I see a van, a minivan. It's like brand new with the darkest tints I've ever seen in my life on it. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, that doesn't seem right. And as I'm walking to my car, I see one of those all too familiar canisters roll out on the ground. And I'm like, well, that looks like a flashbang. Boom. Yep, that was a flashbang.
Are
Another
you
car pulls up.
serious?
Yeah, another car pulls out. FBI's everywhere. They just pop out of nowhere. They've got M16s drawn on me, tell me to put
What?
my hands up. Yep, I've got red dots all over my chest, and I'm at the time I'm a legally concealed carry permitted Florida resident, and I
Right.
have my legally concealed gun on me. So they tell me to drop everything in my hands. They tell me to lift my shirt up, and I'm like, okay, I'm about to get shot now. So I pull my shirt up, and there's my gun. And the FBI screaming at me, if you reach for it, we'll effing murder you. Those are his exact words. He will effing
Oh
murder
my
me.
God.
I informed that I will never reach for it. An FBI agent came up with their gun drawn on me, retrieved my firearm, and they put the handcuffs on me. And the FBI agent that I called, who said he was a close family friend of mine, appeared with his binder and his notes and everything, and at that time, I said, I'd been watching all of these FBI raids on J6ers, so I figured the next step was to kick in my door and seize everything you can. And fortunately for me, like happened to so many others, that didn't happen. I informed him that, look, my fiance and my little dog are sleeping in there. Please, they'll come out. Don't kick in the door and scare the living. He's like, no, we only have a warrant for you and your cell phone. So my phone was in my pocket. He took my phone. They cuffed me, and off the journey would begin from this moment.
Holy shit, dude. Okay, so but your attorney had been in contact with this FBI agent. What in the actual F bombs why was it so necessary to display such a show of force? Yeah, I mean, it's not I mean, dude, what the heck? Are you serious right now?
Yeah, well, ex Special Agent Steve Friend would go on to answer your question for you. He left the FBI because of what was going on with January 6 cases, and to summarize it briefly, the FBI, the DOJ asked for this substantial amount of money because domestic terrorism was running rampant through the United States. And long story short, they got this money. So in order to justify it, they had to do these over accentuated FBI raids on all January Sixers and bring out all the guns and armored vehicles they can to justify this egregious budget that they received from the American taxpayer under the guise of we're combating domestic terrorists. But I don't know this yet. But Steve Friend wrote a good book about it called True Blue, which I highly recommend.
And do you know Steve Friend?
Not personally, no. I just followed him, and he was a whistleblower that testified in front of Congress that spilled the beans on what was going on with the FBI and the J6 investigations. I got his book sent to me while in prison, read it, and was pretty fascinated by it.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I'm sitting here like so angry right now, like for you, and at our country for even getting to this place. Like, what in the actual? Um. So, I literally feel like dropping so many f bombs right now. I really do. I mean, I really want to. If this doesn't piss off Americans, like I've gotten to know you over the last few weeks, and you're just a regular, average, good dude. I mean, you're not this domestic freaking terrorist bullshit. I'm shocked by all of this, man. So then so that was it. They showed their force, put you in cuffs, took you somewhere, I'm assuming. Um, and then you were let go, and life's been good ever since then.
Oh, I wish. No, things would get a lot worse and a lot crazier.
Yeah.
So they took me to Broward County Main Jail, and the next day I was set to have a bail hearing.
Does the
Uh,
FBI not have their own jail? I'm just curious. Like,
They have federal detention facilities, but depending on what district you're in,
Oh,
they utilize different jails. But
okay, okay.
I'll get to learn this process for the first time in my life. I have no criminal history, uh, and I'd never been to jail before, and
Wow,
so this is where I got to realize how how corrupt our system really is. I had a bail hearing. We my lawyers for strategic reasons scheduled it rescheduled it for a week later, and I finally went to my bail hearing. We thought that I could possibly be granted bail because I had no criminal history. I have an attorney. We would turn over my passport. I have a home, a job, and the United States Probation Office, I believe it is, that does this report that recommends you or recommends you get bail or denied bail did a report with me, an interview with me, and they recommended that I receive bail, pretrial release. And so when I went to my bail hearing, the judge read this paper recommendation from this woman that conducted this interview with me. She read the paper and read out loud, okay, they are recommending pretrial release. Immediately, the judge reads something else, hits a button that silences her voice from being heard from the rest of the courtroom. A woman from the back of the room walks up with a single piece of paper, hands it to the judge, and the judge says, "Okay, well, they did a second report, and they're recommending Barry Ramey not be granted pretrial release." So when that second report was done, I couldn't tell you because I only met with one person, and they recommended
wow,
pretrial release. So this obviously came from the upper echelons of the DOJ to do this, and that
wow.
was when the first time in my life I would experience what a true broken heart felt like. I had never known. But when I heard the United States prosecutor call me a domestic terrorist in a courtroom while staring at the American flag that was behind the judge, that was the first time I would feel my heart break. That the country I loved, whether I'm wrong or not, guilty or not, that can we can talk about that. But to call me a domestic terrorist, that it broke my heart. It broke my heart.
Man, I don't know how anybody can listen to your story and not get angry. I mean, I'm just like, what the fuck? Pardon my language. If y'all don't like it, you don't have to listen. But what in the actual people need to get their heads literally out of their asses and see what's going on in this country. I hope that a lot of people wake up from this. So you weren't released. I'm assuming you did. You try to convince her? Just,
Yeah, there was no convincing. Um,
yeah. Holy shit, dude.
it was at this time that I was informed that I'm being extradited to the District of Columbia.
Hold it.
So
So you're in Florida in Broward County, which is Miami, right? Is that Miami area?
Fort Lauderdale, right next door.
Okay. You're and now they're telling you that you're being extradited to um DC,
Yes.
which means what? You're taking they do they fly you first class? How's that work?
So this is where I would learn the Department of Justice and the BOP, mainly the Department of Justice at this point, because I'm pretrial. They have a practice called diesel therapy, and I would go on this, what in my firm belief, very unconstitutional, cruel, and unusual punishment practice that is done by the Department of Justice. And what diesel therapy is when they move you from facility to facility to facility all over the country, all at the cost of the taxpayer, mind you. It costs anywhere from a few thousand up to $10,000 per inmate to move and transfer. And they put so I went on a tour of the United States pretty much. In before trial in 16 months, I would be shipped to 14 different facilities, 14 different times, 13 or 12 different facilities all over the country. I was taken to Broward County Main Jail, then to another facility in Broward County, then to the federal holdover building in Miami. From Miami, I would go to Tallahassee, Florida. where I was there for about 8, 9 hours. From Tallahassee, I went to USP Atlanta. From USP Atlanta, I was put on a plane, flown to Grady County, Oklahoma, in the middle of the United States. For 2 weeks later, I was sent from Oklahoma on
Wait,
a
wait, wait.
plane.
And this whole time you're like, so you're going to where in Oklahoma?
It's called Grady County. I couldn't even tell you exactly where it was, other than it was
Okay,
in
so Grady,
Oklahoma.
you go and they take you where, to a jail or something?
Yeah, it's a jail that has a federal contract and a federal holdover, and they use it as a hub, a centralized hub to ship people to different federal
Okay, so
districts.
you show up in this Grady County, Oklahoma, and they put you in a jail cell, and you like then okay, you're dealing with new guards, new all of that, right?
Yep. Yep.
And you know, you don't have to disclose it if you don't want, but how were you treated by these guards?
Um. Overall, with an exceptions of a few instances, pretty well. I recall one time being on they call it Con Air, the plane that they fly detainees all over the place, and the marshals are the ones that curate that. And I remember one time the marshal realizing I was a January 6th Sixer. I think what the dead giveaway was is they were at the time COVID was still going around and they required you to wear a mask. So before leaving Grady County, they give you a mask. I took a pencil and wrote "Let's go Brandon" on my mask. And so I get on the plane. I get on the plane. I'm in shackles and cuffs, and I've got my "Let's Go Brandon" mask on.
I
And the
love it.
marshal looks at me, and I have the American flag bleeding down my arm and a
Yeah.
tattoo. And the marshal looks. He goes, "Are you a January Sixer?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he almost got teary eyed, and he looked at me and he goes, "You are a political prisoner. Don't you ever forget that." And he was genuinely upset about my circumstance.
Holy shit.
And so overall, the employees of the BOP, the officers at jail certainly, and definitely the marshals understood what was going on and were not happy about it. Um, I'll leave the name of the facility out of it, but I was at a jail and in Virginia, and at about 5 o'clock in the morning, I was in solitary confinement, and an officer actually opened my door and gave me Starbucks coffee, bacon, eggs, and all kind of stuff. So
No shit.
yeah, he was, there's not much he can do. He's got to do his job, but he
Sure.
let me know that was the first time I had bacon in 15 months. So,
Oh my god,
there
dude.
was officers that understood, but there was a few instances, especially at FCI Miami, which I would get to later, where I was really mistreated pretty badly.
So, and my god, I can't believe it's almost been an hour already, dude. Holy crap. So then, let's fast forward to that, to some of the stuff that, um and you can call it political prisoner. I call it a hostage of the US government. Um because you literally are and have been, but because I look, I've never I have a lot of friends that are in law enforcement, really really good friends. I've never assaulted any. I've probably punched them in the arm or something, just joking around and shit, but I've never assaulted a police officer in any way, and I don't recommend it. But if I were to go right now to my little town I live here in Texas and assault an officer, I'm too old for that. I'd probably end up getting my ass really handed to me. But afterwards, I would assume that, I might get a little bit of maybe probation or some kind of a jail, maybe jail for a minute. I don't know. Especially if I hired the right attorney. But so I can't imagine that for the average person to do what you did, that it the I can't imagine that it would be anywhere close to the punishment you've received. I'll just say
Well,
that.
especially when you look at a district like DC and a district attorney by the name of Matthew Graves, who continuously turns a blind eye to serious crimes such as armed
Right.
carjacking,
Right.
attempted murder. People get bail in DC for attempted murder and armed carjacking. I mean, this is the same
Yeah.
district attorney that watched the White House get attacked by BLM and Antifa,
Yeah.
and St. John's Church across the street almost get burnt to the ground
Right.
and didn't issue one indictment. The
Right.
same district
Right.
attorney where a pro-Palestinian, pro-terrorist Hamas
Yeah.
supporter punched a female Capitol police officer in the face, and Matthew Graves gave him 48 hours of community service. You can look that one up. This is the
Yeah.
same district attorney that indicted all of us and gave us
Yeah.
years in prison.
So I mean, there's another title for him. It's piece of shit, not
Yeah,
just
well,
district attorney. And I wanna point out too that it wasn't just DC. We had Antifa and BLM all over the nation burning this freaking country to the ground, and none of them got shit. Like they didn't
right.
get anything.
Well,
And
you
and
got
so
you got the one most the biggest case where the individual got 9 years, burnt down a building where somebody was actually killed in. Can you imagine if a Trump supporter had done that? You know,
yeah,
started an arson that resulted in the loss of life of an individual. This person would be in prison
firing
for the rest of their life.
squad. They
Yeah,
would have put you on the firing squad.
but this person will probably be out of prison in the next year or two.
Yeah.
So
Here's my buddy Megan. She said, I was at January 6th. It was a Fed surrection.
it
Yeah.
sure was.
So you'd love Megan. She's awesome. So talk about some of the shit you went through in Miami and all of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that the experience in FCI Miami should be what I would consider to be the biggest wake up call to America, and how to actually I can articulate it, but to really process it, I could use some help from the general public, because to me, it is probably one of the most egregious violations of constitutional rights I'd ever seen, and that would be Merrick Garland's office in the DOJ placed upon all January Sixers, including myself, the label in the BOP called greatest severity. You have greatest severity, minimal severity, and low severity. And what that is it's a risk analysis assessment that is you utilized to determine what your risk factor to the community out broad is. There should be a very strict point in analyzation that somebody meets the requirements to be put to have the greatest severity put on them. We didn't meet any of those requirements, and I say this because officers within the BOP that have done this for 20 years said we didn't meet the requirements. And in FCI Miami, we actually had two individuals, one that was an affiliate of ISIS, another one that was an IDF Israeli soldier that went rogue that was dealing weapons to Hamas, and neither one of them met the greatest severity qualification. Now, what greatest severity does is A, it prevents you from ever going to a camp. B, you are given extra scrutiny by the BOP's counterterrorism unit, known as the CTU. Um, it goes without saying that phone calls and mail, visitors, all of that receives scrutiny from the Bureau of Prisons, and it should. There's some dangerous people that go in and out of the prison system. But
Yeah.
what the greatest severity does is it gives the authorization and authority to the counterterrorism unit of the Bureau of Prisons. um, all my phone calls were scrutinized by a department. I was classified as a domestic terrorist and a terrorist, and emails, mail was withheld, seized, books. What they would throw away my books. They would prevent me from getting newspapers, all of which a normal inmate can do. But what the worst, I think, most egregious thing what happened is one day I was constantly harassed by a BOP officer there who was the liaison to the counterterrorism unit, and he called me to the lieutenant's office one day. And first, I was on the phone with a woman by the name of Cynthia Hughes, who has a nonprofit called Patriot Freedom Project. And she raised and donated a substantial amount of money to different J6ers legal defense funds. So I was touching base with her on the phone. And I explained to her that I'm being threatened. The FCI Miami and the counterterrorism unit is threatening to send me to a maximum security unit, a prison in Indiana called the Communications Monitoring Unit, the CMU, where they actually house real terrorists, Al Qaeda, ISIS. This is where they go. They were threatening to send me to this facility, and I was on the phone explaining this to her. I was called to the lieutenant's office, and this officer said that the CTU, the counterterrorism unit, called FCI Miami and said that I could possibly be planning an escape, that I'm giving the inner workings of the BOP by telling Cynthia Hughes where the communications monitoring unit is located. That is public knowledge. If you go to the BOP.gov, you can see where the CMU is located. It's public information. So I informed the officer this. He did agree. And at this time, this is where I was shown a stack of papers of my fiance's social media accounts,
Mm,
screenshots, a whole file full of her social media. She was not at January 6th. She's never been convicted or indicted or accused of being January 6th. And they were upset about a video that you can see. It's on her website, ospreysensei.com. That this video that she made with my dog in it was a parody, funny, comedic video that was making fun of Joe Biden and was pro Trump. Well, they told me that if I do not go down to the inmate phone and call her and tell her to remove that post, among others, from her social media, the next day I was going to be shipped to the communications monitoring unit.
gee,
They would cut off
Christmas.
all visitation with her, all mail, all communication with her, and this is somebody that was not in the BOP. She was not in their jurisdiction. She was There was not in their within their authority to be monitoring her social media. This isn't the
Wow.
counterterrorism unit of the BOP. I mean of the FBI or Department of Homeland Security. This is the counterterrorism unit of the BOP. Their jurisdiction ends with people that are in the BOP. But they openly admitted to monitoring my family on the outside, and many case managers and employees of the BOP said they had never seen anything like this in their entire career. And that was just a small taste of the constant mistreatment at FCI Miami. In fact, they're still harassing me now that I'm in a halfway house, and it just hasn't gotten any better. They're making
Hey,
this a very
is that the right website right there? Did I spell that right?
you did,
Osprey.
yes,
Okay.
ospreysensei.com.
Wow. I guessed. So, dude, um, yeah. Megan says, did they ever hear about this thing called free speech?
And I mean,
And now you're in a halfway house. You're working, but you are in a halfway house, and this is the same DOJ that Merritt Garland sent his number two guy to New York to work the cases against Trump, the bullshit cases against Trump, the bullshit cases against you and a lot of other J6ers. Again, I'm not saying you didn't do anything wrong. You admitted to it. You said, yes, I pepper sprayed a police officer in the midst of everything that was happening. Um, I don't know. I guess I would have had to been there to really understand what happened in that moment for you. But dude, I've like I said, I've gotten to know you. I've heard you speak on X stages a couple of times, or spaces there. And I think you're a freaking good dude, man. I think you just love America, and you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And or maybe not. Maybe you were in the right place at the right time. I think everything in God's world happens exactly the way it's supposed to.
I
Yeah.
definitely did feel called to go to DC that day, and other than that one action, I don't regret it because I believe the story's still being written, and
Yeah.
what we're going to be able to show to America as far as how corrupt the Department of Justice is and how biased it is, I believe is going to benefit all Americans in the long run. We really need prison reform. We really need to correction reform. And
Yeah.
I, you know, I the issue, the thing I went through with January 6th is not going to deter me from loving America. It's only going to strengthen it. and we have a serious problem with morale within our own citizens about how great this country really is. Is there corruption? Yes. But is there something we can do about it? Also, yes. So
Yeah.
I do feel that it was God's plan for me to be there, and that part I don't regret. And just to touch on real quick, I was charged with 2 counts of aggravated battery with a deadly and dangerous weapon causing serious bodily injury and harm. They wanted
Wow.
me to sign a plea offer for 15 years in prison.
Holy
And
shit.
yeah, I decided that I have a good attorney. We're going to do a bench trial because you can't get a fair trial in DC, and let the judge decide if I am guilty of that. I'm not arguing that I committed assault, but to say that
Right.
I one step under tried to kill an officer of the law was just, it was berserk. And fortunately, my lawyer did a very good job, and the judge agreed that, look, you're way overcharging this, like they did to everybody. You're way
Yep.
overcharging this, man. And I accepted guilt for what the lesser charge. I didn't assault the second officer. That never occurred. I never touched anybody, but they
Right.
do something called splitting the baby in DC, where they constantly try to capitulate to the prosecutors, and they did that in my case, and I got stuck with the second assault. I did appeal it, and I lost that as well, but at
Oh,
least
so
they did.
you got stuck with both assaults?
I did, and
Oh,
not only that, I was found not guilty in my bench trial of use of a dangerous weapon, but the judge still gave me a 3-point sentencing enhancement for dangerous weapon, and gave me extra time for something that the same judge inevitably found me not guilty of during my trial. So explain that one to me.
it's dude, it's here's what Megan says. They were directing everyone inside. I had a bad feeling like there was a setup. My intuition really felt like there was a lot of confusion and deception. I stayed outside, but the people outside were singing and being peaceful. Exactly what you said earlier before Megan joined us.
Yeah,
Eh,
I saw somebody actually encouraging people to uh to light a cop car on fire that was like a SWAT team car that was out front, and immediately the response from MAGA supporters was, "We're not here to do that. We're not Antifa. Get the F out of here. Like, we're not
Right,
that's not who we are."
right.
And it was kind of cool to see.
Well,
So,
I also saw people changing their clothes to Trump gear that was obviously just purchased at souvenir tables, ripping off tags and changing under trees. So they were plants. They were plants.
yeah, I actually, while I was in the DC Gulag and USP Lewisburg, we did discover an Antifa operative by the name of Josiah Kenyon that was a member of Antifa, a pro-communist individual. We actually got a hold by an outside source of his FBI debriefing, where he admitted to the FBI. Those transcripts are all online. That he was a member of Antifa, he was pro-communist, and he went there to provoke Trump supporters, instigate them into being shot by police. Um, I did an interview with Jim Hoft of the Gateway Pundit, and the article is out there, and it has his FBI debriefing. It has him. He admitted to everything, and he's
Jeez.
not the only one. He joined a group of buses the day before January 6th that was filled with Antifa operatives. He spilled the beans, gave names and addresses, and I would encourage people to look at that article. I can have it reposted to my X account here soon.
So I really we got to wrap this up so you're not I don't want you getting any shit with the halfway house. Hopefully you don't catch any shit for doing this interview
Well,
with
I put some
um
lawyers on standby, and I'm not at the halfway house. I'm not,
yeah.
so we're
I
ready
I
to meet that.
I'm going to ask everybody watching to please share this out. If you're on X, please tag President Trump and Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk. Tag everybody that you can, and let's get some attention around this. I mean, Barry, I understand you did something that you probably shouldn't have. Maybe you should have. I don't know. It seems kind of like a bunch of bullshit to me that two of these Capitol police officers would come out and just, and I don't know if Megan was in it when they started firing those rubber bullets and lobbing the tear gas grenades. I don't know if Megan was nearby or not. If you were, Megan, please chime in. But I
There's
think
now
that
dozens of videos that show that exact instance when that happened.
and that's so. I mean, that like, dude, how? I mean, it's almost like they did that to intentionally stir shit up. It wasn't
Well,
to disband the crowd. You don't fire rubber bullets at people to disband them. That's just enough to piss people off.
yeah, well, you would say that this has been deemed an unruly gathering. You need to disperse immediately. That's what you would say,
Yeah,
and that was never said. That was never done. We were just attacked while singing the nation's anthem, and you know that that that's what happened. And the videos can back up. Don't take my word for it. Don't. I encourage everyone to look at the videos and see what happened. And
yeah. She said Megan's was there when the tear gas went off. Um, she said, here, look, I watched the guy in black break the window. He looked Antifa to me. So, I mean, there again, and Megan's really good friend of mine. So she's actually part of my mastermind. There are I want attention around this to the big dogs. I want Trump to see this. I want tag Donald Trump Jr., tag everybody that you can that so we can get attention around this because honestly, what JD Vance tag JD Vance for the love of God, him saying that they weren't going to pardon or they however he said it, that's bullshit, man. Like there needs to be a blanket pardon to every single person involved. And, I mean, my God, time served. This is crazy. 4 more days, man. 4 more days.
I'll tell you right now, these next 4 days are like waiting for Christmas to come, but seeing your mom hide dog food in her closet so you know you're getting a puppy. The anticipation is just out of control. And I'm glad that thanks for having me on. If anyone would like to follow me on X, I'm at Ramey is right, and I'm still going through some legal problems and stuff like that. So if anyone would like to donate to givesendgo.com/Barry Ramey, that would be great. My life has been shattered and financially and especially, and we're just getting started to get back on our feet. But I want to thank you for having me on here. I didn't even get a chance to talk about the good stuff at Northern Neck Regional Jail in Virginia, where I was stabbed in the face over watching Tucker Carlson. So
Well, okay, so bring that up really fast. I know you got to go here in a couple minutes, but talk about that. I just put up a banner. Follow Ramey is right on X, and we follow each other. So talk about that because you were stabbed in the freaking face. Talk
yeah,
about that real quick. Like this is
well,
crazy, y'all. Like get this is
Northern Neck Regional Jail is in Warsaw, Virginia. I was there for 6 months pre-trial. It was the longest stint at any one facility I was at. It is the most outrageous. I put it this way: people came from the DC Gulag, which was absolutely horrendous and terrible, and they came to Northern Neck and were hoping to go back to the DC Gulag because it was better, and it was still terrible there. Northern Neck Regional Jail was it's another story in and of itself, and the treatment that we got there, the treatment that everybody gets there, not just J6ers, everybody is horrendous. And we were mixed in a large population, a general population, with a lot of bangers, murderers, rapists, and there was at least there was about 20 of us at any given time, and we were pretty tight banded together. Long story short, we were able to secure one of the multiple TVs that were in this place, and every night from 8 to 9 p.m. we watched Tucker Carlson, the J6ers, and even some of the other inmates that enjoyed conservative news. Well, there was a group of DC inmates, DC parasites that came in, and they wanted to take our TV from us. And now, mind you, there's other TVs there, and their argument was is that you guys take up prime movie time by watching this racist white supremacist Tucker Carlson from 8 to
Wow.
9 p.m. So long story short, several fights broke out in there. When I started getting the better of the guy, he pulled out a knife and got me in the face and my nose really good. And that's just one of the things that comes along with jail, is especially with DC inmates. They love to stab. So
Holy crap, dude.
yeah,
You know, one good thing that came out of all of this, though, I think you'll agree, is Hunter Biden got pardoned.
yeah. Well, the priorities.
Right.
Uh,
If y'all don't wake the hell up, I mean, seriously, wake the hell up. I know that most of America has, but it blows my mind that there are still idiots asleep at the freaking wheel and they don't see this shit. Blows my mind. And that is why I asked you to come and be a guest on my show, because I'm so pissed off and tired of the bullshit in this country. I think everybody is. And I pray to God that Monday, President Trump does the right thing. You got to do the right thing or we're done, like, as a country.
yeah.
And
Well,
and January 6th will look like a freaking, it'll look like child's play if they don't do the right thing. It will. I think that we as Americans are just fed up with the bullshit. It needs to stop.
Well, we need to take that frustration to the primaries.
Yes. Amen.
Conservatives, we don't have a politician problem. We have a people problem. And the far left and the Democrats will walk on broken glass through lakes of fire to vote for whatever pink hair, lip ring school board member communist that they can vote for. And
Yep.
our side of the aisle, our patriots, our American lovers, on primary day, which is more important than even general elections at times, sit home and sit the primaries out and then spend the next several years complaining about who's in office. We
Yep.
need to wake up and get to the primaries in 2026, 2025,
Yep.
and not play any games this time. So let's get involved now because the time is now.
I'm on the board of the rhino removal project,
There you go.
and we need to remove these rhino pieces of crap, aka hidden communists. That we need to get them out. They need to go. This
They're
shit needs to
just as
stop.
dangerous as the left, if not more.
If not more. No, probably more. At least the left's going, hey, this is how we want to screw you. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
So, anyway, dude, listen, I know you got to run. Thank you. Stay on here with me for a minute. I'm going to wrap the show up. Everybody watching, please follow Barry on X. Ramey is right at Ramey is right. RAMEYISRIGHT. Make sure you follow Barry over there on X, and if you haven't shared this out, please share this out. The world needs to hear this story. So Barry, thank you very much for coming on, being a guest. I look forward to meeting you in person very, very soon and shaking your hand. You're an American hero to me, sir. So thank you for what you've done and everything that you've been through. I think you'll get everything back and then some. So hang
Thank you,
in there,
sir.
brother. Hang in
Thank
there.
you, sir.
So, all right, everybody, we will see you later. Barry, stay with me. Don't hang up. It's going to feel like I left, but I promise I'll be right back. We'll see
You
y'all
got it.
later. Have a great day and share this out. Thank you so much.